Alright guys, Sean Obsessed here. Wanted to finally get around to doing this video. I did a previous video showing you some of the basics in terms of polishes and pads and tips and tricks when it comes to machine polishing and correcting paint. We talked about the types of pads I like to use, the types of polishes I like to pair with them, and even simplifying it, showing you the different combinations of pads and polishes and how some manufacturers have paired pads and polishes through their product line to make it simpler for the consumer. So today I'm going to go through some of the pads and the techniques I like to use with my polishers. We're going to do a two-step correction on one side of this, on this side of the panel. We're going to do a one-step on this side of the panel, and you can see the differences in the two. I'll bring the camera in once I'm done. I may speed through the polishing steps, but I'm going to talk about how I like to approach polishing and correcting as well. So on this side of the panel, again, we're going to do a two-step. You see this panel is pretty hammered. You can see a lot of the defects there. Swirls, scratches, holograms. It's in pretty bad shape. And these bigger scratches like this, I'm not going to worry about. We're not going to try to take those out today. I may do that in a separate video when I talk about fixing scratches and what kind of scratches you can take out, how to take them out, and the best approach for doing those. But just for today's purposes, we're going to do a simple two-step correction on this side, one-step correction on this side, show you how that's done, some of the techniques I use, and show you the differences in the finish once you do those types of correction steps. So first up, two-step correction on this side. I may speed through this. What we're going to use on this side, this is my old trusted friend, a Rupes ES21. This is the original. I've had this for many years. We've gone to battle together. It's my trusty machine. Hasn't failed me yet, knock on wood. We're going to be pairing this with a microfiber cutting pad and the the Boss Fast Correcting Cream. This is considered a compound, so it's going to do a lot of cut. That's what they say in the industry. And when they refer to cut, that's basically saying the level of abrasives in that liquid. So fast correcting cream cuts a lot, meaning it has a lot of abrasives. So it's made to do heavy cutting and removing a lot of defects on a panel like this that's got a lot of defects. So it's made, when paired with a microfiber cutting pad, it should cut through these defects relatively quickly. I prime my pad. And for microfiber, to prime the pad, what you want to do is apply product all throughout the pad and then get that product throughout all those fibers with your finger. Wear gloves, please. And you want to work that product into that pad to make sure all those fibers have some type of product on them, because you don't want to hit that product with a dry fiber. Then it create heat. Heat's not your friend. Heat makes the paint swell. It'll look like your defects are gone. When that paint cools off, it shrinks back down again, and then you'll see some of those defects return. So you may be fooled at first glance, and then later on when that panel cools, you'll see those defects return. So I've worked some product into my pad. I'm going to add a little bit more product here to go on the panel. Now, what I didn't talk about before in machine polishing is there's a couple ways to do this. Some people working across, most detailers you'll see working a crosshatch pattern. So what they will do is turn on their machine. They may work some product on the panel, and then they'll start making their section passes. When you make a section pass, you're going to go almost like mowing the lawn. That'll be one section pass, then I'll come back across this way. Be another section pass, and then another section pass, so on and so forth. I like to do approximately 4 to 5 section passes if I'm not getting the type of defect removal I want, and 4 to 5 passes. I'll either upgrade my liquid, meaning I'll find something with a little more cut, or I'll upgrade my pad to something with a little more cut. So if this isn't doing it, I may step up to a wool pad. But typically microfiber is going to do it. Microfiber is pretty serious. as well as the Boss Correcting Cream. Another way to get a little bit more defect removal is to work your arm speed. So as I go across this panel, I'm gonna move because this is my first pass, and trying to see how much I can, how many defects, how much defect removal I can accomplish in a few 4 to 5 section passes. I'm gonna move at medium speed. If I've almost got the level of cut I want, what I'll do is I'll slow down my arm speed. So instead of going across the panel in my section passes at this rate, I may slow it down. Make my section passes a little slower. That way I'm getting a little bit more rotation as I go through the panel from the pad and the machine, getting a little bit more cut. So it's a good idea, no matter whether you're 2-step or 1-step, is to start somewhere, find a pad and a polish. Typically start in the middle. Depending on how heavy, if you've got defects like this, you know it's going to be heavy defect removal. Now your paint may be a little softer, so you can kind of gauge it from there. But if you don't know, start out in the middle. Find a medium cut polish, a medium cut pad, make a couple section passes, see what your panel looks like. We call that do a test panel. Find a good spot on the car, something a little inconspicuous, or somewhere you can get a good even pressure on your machine and even section passes. Do a test panel, see what it looks like, find your combination, find out what works. It may take you 2 or 3 section panels before you find the right combination that's going to give you the best look and the amount of defect removal that you remove. Once you find that, then you go with that for the rest of the vehicle. So that's kind of the approach to finding out what it's going to take to get that panel where you want it. So again, got a little product on the panel. I'm going to throw my cord over my shoulder so that doesn't get in my way. And I'll probably cut out the sound while I'm doing this, or speed up the video so you don't have to be bored by watching me do this. All right, so made my 4 to 5 section passes. Again, microfiber cutting pad, Lake Country microfiber cutting pad with the fast correcting cream, my Rupes 21 on speed 5. Speed 4.5, speed 5 is the most you want to go. This is a test panel. I don't care about this, so I cranked it up. But I'm about speed 4, anywhere between speed 4 and speed 5, especially when I'm doing heavy cutting like this. You don't want to crank your machine up as far as you can go. That's going to generate more heat, and again, heat's not your friend. This panel did get a little warm, not like blazing hot, but got a little warm. But I'm doing heavy defect removal on microfiber, so that's typical. So let's wipe that off, see what it looks like. Now hopefully the camera is picking this up, but what you're going to see is that panel is going to look a lot clearer than it did before. You see a lot of defect removal. Again, that panel it's not perfect, but it's removed a lot of defects. Now, what you'll see, and the camera may or may not be picking it up. I may turn off the light and bring my other light over. But there's some, what they call hazing. Because that combination of pad and polish or compound are fairly aggressive, you're going to create some micro marring, some hazing effect. And you may not see it, camera may not pick it up, but it's there. I can pick it up. I can see it with my eyes. I'm going to get my light in so you can see that. But so if I were, especially on a black car like this, it's going to be much more noticeable. If this were a white car or a silver car, this may look fine. It may look beautiful, and you may want to move on, and it's great because you restored a lot of clarity just on that step of compounding. This paint is a medium to hard side, so that's good. If this were softer, it would have put a lot more defects in there. But as you can see, that paint already looks a lot better. Now what we're going to do on the other side, we're going to go to a one step. So I'm going to pair a orange light cutting pad, Lake Country, and the Griots correcting cream. This combination will not remove as many defects, but if you're dealing with a panel that doesn't have as many, this may be perfect for you. You may have some light marring, and it may look great afterwards. So, on the other side of this panel here, we're going to get some product on the pad. Now the foam pads, you don't need to prime them like you do on a microfiber pad. You're going to just get some product on the panel. You'll see I'll spread some around, a couple laps. You may want to turn your machine on low, like a speed 2. Turn your machine on, get that product around the panel. Once you've got it spread out fairly evenly, go up to, I'm going to speed, say 4.5. And I'm going to, same approach here, section passes, 4 to 5. Again, speed 4.5. Going to go at medium arm speed. I'm not going to go super slow, not going to go super fast. This is foam. It won't generate as much heat as that microfiber. If I want to slow it down, I could. But again, you want to see how much defect removal you're doing once you're done with your section passes. If you need to go a little slower, you can. In terms of pressure, I personally don't like to use a whole lot of pressure on my machine. I keep enough pressure to keep it stable, holding it firmly so it doesn't get away from me, or because it will, depending on what angle you're holding it on the panel, it can buck and jerk a little bit. So I'd like to get enough pressure to keep the pad firmly on the panel and to keep the pad spinning. And we'll talk about the actual pad spinning in a second, and I'll show you some of the differences in mini machines in terms of pad spinning. If the pad's not spinning, it's not doing any work, but I'll show you that closer to the end of the video. So let's get started. All right, we've made our section passes using our Lake Country Force light cutting pad. With our Griots correcting cream. Now, let's move this light so you have that reflection here. Now, I'm going to bring that in. As you can see, finished down pretty good. Moved quite some defects. There's still a few more defects, light scratches and scuffs in there. But it doesn't look bad, and I don't see the marring in the panel like you do on this side. And again, that marring is caused from the heavy cutting of the combination of the microfiber and the fast correcting cream. Now I'm going to do a second step on this side, see if you can notice the difference. between the side we did a two-step and a one-step. And the level of clarity that will be there, we'll pull the tape off and we'll go back and forth between the two sides. So now we're going to do our follow-up step on this side of the panel. We're going to do our second correction step, which is going to be our final polishing or finish polishing to get that hazing out of the panel that we created with the heavy compounding step using the fast correcting cream and the microfiber cutting pad. We're going to be applying the Optimum Hybrid Polish to a Lake Country Force white polishing pad. So easy to use. This product's been sitting on the shelf for a while. I'll do this with all of the liquids that you use, whether it's a coating, a polish, soap, anything you use that's been sitting on the shelf for a while. Give it a good shake before you use it. Simple to use. Spray, you're ready to go. That's what I love about Hyper Polish. A couple sprays on your pad, you've got the right amount, now you're ready to work. When it comes to other heavier type liquids, it requires pea-sized dots. And again, like I talked about in my previous video, some people's pea-sized dots may be bigger than other people's pea-sized dots. So the spray, I like the spray because there's no guesswork. It's the same amount just about every time, and you're not overusing or underusing the product. So it's awesome. So polishing step, we'll do this real quick. I'll cut it, put in some music, something cool. So same process. You don't need to work the product into the pad like you do with the microfiber. Again, this is a foam pad. Get a little product on the panel. They start with speed 2, spread it around. Now, I've got my product spread around. Now I'm going to make my section passes just like before. You're not doing any heavy work here. You don't require any pressure. You're just removing that marring, those light defects that you created from the compounding step. I'm going to give this up to, since I'm not doing a whole lot of work here, I'm going to crank this up almost to speed 5 and go to work. Made our section passes with our Optimum Hybrid Polish on our Force, Lake Country Force white polishing pad. Another great thing about Optimum Hybrid Polish is it's super easy to remove. You'll find some polishes, some compounds may be a little more difficult than others. Some you have to work a little bit longer to get them to remove well, but the Boss creams are awesome products to use. They have good work time. They don't dry up on you, creating a lot of dust. Most of them have virtually no dust. And the Optimum Hybrid Polish is easy to use as well. So now, our results. I'm going to bring you in here so you can see. Let me take that tape line off so we can see the difference here. Also give you a nice contrast from where we started to where we finished, and the difference between the one-step and two-step. Get off here. So I'm going to turn that light off. We're going to get light here so we can focus in better. Alright, so now you can see on this side of the panel we restored quite a bit of clarity. You've got some rock chips and stone chips in there, but for the most part we brought back a lot of clarity to that panel, as you can see here. like I said, there's still defects there. This panel is pretty hammered. I got it from a junkyard, but there's a lot of clarity back in that panel. Let's move over to our, now you can see the tape line. That's what the panel looked like before. Pretty rough. And this is our one-step side. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus in there. Now on the one-step side, what you'll see, still got quite a few scratches and scuffs, but there's some clarity there. It's definitely a lot better than this, but not quite the clarity on this side. A lot of the scuffs and scratches are going over here. You've got the rock chips, which there's not much you're going to be able to do about that, but the scratches and swirls, a lot of those are gone now. Left with a much clearer finish than this. And as you can see, restoring that clarity, the color is also restored. The hood now looks black. Over here, it looks almost gray because all that light reflecting off of all those scratches, it almost changes the color of the panel. Again, over here, one step, you'll see some scratches and some defects remaining. The two-step, we've got a lot of those scratches out of there. What we've got left are some rock chips, things like that. Again, it's a junkyard panel, so don't expect too much. But a lot of that clarity's been restored to the panel. Good color back to it. So that's the difference, folks. We're talking about a two-step, where it was when I picked it up, and a one-step. And depending on your panel, depending on the color of the car, the type of paint you have, there are a lot of nuances. I talked about that early on. It's not as simple as a one-step, two-step, this pad, this polish, or this compound, this pad, for every car. It's a little different. That's why I advise everyone to do a test panel. If you're still working on your technique, you've never done it before, go get yourself one of these hoods from a junkyard. Get some practice in. Learn how to use your machine. What I'll talk about in another video is the machines, what types of machines, how they work, making sure your pad's spinning, that kind of thing. But I just wanted to cover the basics in this video. What kind of polishes to pair with what compounds, some of the general rules of thumb when it comes to using a machine polisher and what pads, etc. Again, it's not going to be the same for every car. There is some nuance to it. This hood, this paint, this came off a Chrysler 200, medium to hard, not too hard to work with at all. It's again, medium to hard paint, pretty easy to fix and correct. If you're working on something like a Honda or a Subaru, that paint's going to be much softer, much more finicky, and you may be able to do the work with a foam pad. You may not have to resort to microfiber, but finishing that paint that soft is a little harder. You may have to go to a zero cut pad, something like a black pad that has virtually no cut at all, to a very light polish. So there is some nuance to polishing and correcting paint depending on what type of paint you're working with. But as a general rule of thumb, when you're dealing with heavy defects, you go to something like a microfiber, heavy defect removal, finish off with a finishing polish, and you should get good results. But I just wanted to cover the basics, guys, in this one. We'll do some more nuanced type work, talking about the types of machines, how they work, and pads that work great with the machines that I have. I not only have the orbital machines, but I also have some forced rotation machines as well. We'll talk about that, how those work, the difference in those, and actual modifications we've done to a couple of our machines. That's a little bit more advanced than, you know, do at your own risk kind of thing, but we'll talk about it in a separate video. So guys, until the next one, have a good one. Enjoy.